friends. This is Jesse Juarez, president of the Rotary Club of sunny Seaside, California. You're watching a presentation which was recorded live at one of our club meetings. Seaside Rotary meets twice a month via Zoom. Our meetings feature dynamic presentations by many of the movers and shakers that make Monterey County such a vibrant and hardworking community. If you'd like to join a meeting or learn more about Rotary and the work that we do, you can reach out to Seaside Rotary Club at gmail.com. Again, that's Seaside Rotary Club at gmail.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more dynamic content.
Perfect. And now I'd like to hand over the floor to Mr. Steve McShane to introduce our guest speakers.
Sure. Well, Seaside Rotarians, we really have a treat today. As we all know, it's hard to strike a balance in life for longevity between family and work and everything else we have going on. Well, we're really pleased to welcome Blue Zones to the peninsula as it's grown in the region. And today is our opportunity to better understand this innovative product or project and what's involved. We have two speakers with us that will be co-leading this. And the first that I'd introduce is the community program manager heading up Blue Zones on the peninsula, and that's Tanya. She's got quite a background in community health and well-being. She's grown up on the peninsula. She's a Cal grad. She has a master's in nonprofit administration from USF. But probably the most impressive thing about her is her commitment to gardening. She's been very successful with growing her own food, raising chickens. Just really see that passion and that importance. She's been recognized in numerous capacities. One that caught my eye was by the Weekly. Someone that's going to make a big difference in our community and continues to make a difference. She's accompanied today by Paul Legorski. Paul plays an important role in Blue Zones as he is handling worksite engagement as the organization lead, particularly aimed at hospitality. He comes with a great sense of community and love for the area. If it's not he or his wife or their Boston Terrier that are out playing on the weekends, just locally, they truly love Big Sur and our many parks in the region. The passion for striking that balance between our environment around us and the lives we lead is something he holds very highly. So please help me in giving a Seaside Rotary welcome to Blue Zones as they inspire us and tell us about this great program.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. Thank you, Seaside Rotary, for having us today. Can everyone see my screen? And can everyone hear me okay? I mean, yes, you guys are on mute, but maybe a thumbs up if you can hear me all right.
Yes, sir. We can see
you so much. Perfect. So as Steve said, yeah, it's very difficult to strike that balance. We'll talk a little bit about that balance, if there even is such a thing, for a human being today in the United States and California. But first off, we would just like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Blue Zones Project is brought to Monterey County by the generosity of our sponsors, the Salinas Valley Memorial Healthcare System, Taylor Farms, and Montage Health. Without their support, we could not be here. So huge thank you to them. All right, why is Blue Zones Project here in Monterey County? Well, despite the fact that we have this incredible location where, we're the salad bowl of the world, we deliver produce to literally millions of people all over the world, but almost half of our residents don't eat enough fruit and vegetables. We have thousands of families in Monterey County that suffer the stress of food insecurity. They can't afford or access good food. There's food deserts. You can read the slide. It's kind of self-explanatory, but Monterey County is, despite its beauty, its resources, there's still a lot that we can do to improve the lives of our citizens in Monterey County, and that's why we're here. Now, Blue Zones Project started in Salinas in about 2018. Some of you may have even attended that kickoff, perhaps along the way have been engaging with us. And we're really, really excited to say that we've expanded across Monterey County now. We've launched simultaneously our countywide expansion to all areas in Monterey County and the project that Tanya and I are part of, the Peninsula Cities team, where we focus on Monterey, Marina, Seaside, and Delray Oaks and Sand City, with a further expansion project to come in late 2021, early 2022, specifically focusing on Gonzales, King City, South County regions. As we know, that area, just like the Peninsula cities, just like Salinas, has very specific needs and requires a dedicated team to meet those needs. All right, so let's pull back a little bit. We know that it's getting harder to lead a healthy lifestyle. Right now, it's estimated that about 70% of Americans can be classified as overweight or obese. We know that our environment increasingly encourages unhealthy behaviors, and especially now more than ever, yes, we are emerging from this pandemic, but loneliness and social isolation are really significant risk factors for increased mortality. Well, there is some good news. Despite the fact that there are all these risks and challenges, the determinants of our health, that only 20% has to do with genetics, the things that are inherent in you as an individual. 80% is our lifestyle and environment. This is from a study called the Danish Twin Study, which was conducted in the late 90s. But basically this means that our family medical history doesn't have to determine our personal destiny, at least when it comes to lifestyle, environment, and an extension of that, happiness and our overall health. And that's where Blue Zones Project comes in. So it all began with our founder, National Geographic fellow and explorer, Dan Buettner. He traveled around the world to find where people live the longest and happiest and healthiest lives, the lives that were free of chronic disease, individuals living well into their 90s and possibly even reaching 100 years old. And what he found is that there are 5 longevity hotspots all over the world. Here in California, Loma Linda, in Costa Rica, a place called the Nicoya Peninsula. That's actually my Zoom background. This is a volcano from Nicoya. A island off the coast of Italy called Sardinia, an island off the coast of Greece called Ikaria, and a location in the southern archipelago of Japan, Okinawa. Now, despite being culturally separated, geographically separated, these 5 hotspots had some commonalities, which Tanya will talk about in a moment. But what he found is that these people in these locations weren't living longer because they had superior access to care or the best doctors. Instead, it was the environment that was naturally leading them towards prevention of disease. So, for example, in Sardinia, Italy, the majority of the people in this blue zone are shepherds, and therefore every single day they're constantly walking out, tending to their flocks, walking back home. They make a homemade wine called Cananao, which has one of the highest rates of antioxidants in the world. All these lessons from these different locations indicating that it was environment and changeable factors. And that was really good news, because what it means is that we can change our environment as well to prompt those healthy choices. We can do things to make the healthy choice the easy choice, and that's what Blue Zones Project attempts to do here in our communities. To talk about those lessons, which we call the Power 9, I'm going to turn it over to Tanya, who will talk about the Power 9 and how we actually then implement that work in our community.
All right, thank you so much, Paul. So yes, Dan Buettner and his team essentially distilled these 9 key characteristics that, regardless of geography, these were really the keys, the magical keys that unlocked longevity. We grouped them into 4 major categories. We call them the core 4. So that's around connecting in community in meaningful and authentic ways. So cultivating a sense of belonging, putting our loved ones first, focusing on family, and really finding that right tribe. Who are your people that will be there with you through thick and thin? So that's connecting. We look at the move naturally category. So this is, not going to the gym and pumping iron and running really fast on a treadmill. This is really figuring out ways just in our natural environment to have consistent low intensity activity throughout the day. So rather than jumping in our car and just driving a couple blocks, maybe take some time and walking a couple blocks. Spending some time in your own gardening, playing with your grandkids, in the nearby park and actually walking there. Just simple, easy ways to incorporate natural movement. The third category that we talk about is right outlook. So really getting our head in the game. And two aspects that relate to that is tapping into our innate sense of purpose. So what is it that gets us up in the morning? What are our natural gifts that we just need to share with the community? And we have several ways that we can actually help people tap into that. Downshift is another key component. Americans, we live very stressful, very busy lives. And downshifting is a conscious way where we build into our day-to-day opportunities to just let it all go. Take a moment to breathe, feel our feet on the ground. Maybe for you, downshifting would be going to watch the sunset or reading a book. It's just really finding those things that personally for you allow you to kind of let go of the day-to-day stressors and take a moment to think big picture about your life and tapping into that right outlook. The last, and maybe, I don't know, all of these are important, but eating wisely is the fourth piece of our Power 9. And so these are concepts around eating until you're 80% full. That's a concept that we borrow from our friends in Okinawa. There's a little saying that they use, which is hara hachibu. And that's a reminder, a conscious reminder to stop eating before you're full. Eating a primarily plant-based diet. So a plant slant, we're not saying no meat, but just meat in moderation, maybe just around celebratory experiences. And when you do consume meat, it's really actually only about the size of the palm of your hand. Just a little bit of a mental shift for those of us that have kind of grown up in a meat and potatoes type environment. But finding ways to incorporate more fresh fruits and vegetables is absolutely important. And the last one, which is often very popular, is something that we call wine at 5, or if you don't enjoy wine, just spending time with friends at 5. So this is another way of just relaxing at the end of the day and kind of letting it all go and connecting in with community. So those are our Power 9 principles. And as Paul mentioned, our work with Blue Zones is finding ways to essentially reverse engineer these into our communities to make this healthy choice the easy choice. All right, so Blue Zones project in our communities that we identified. So Marina, Monterey, Seaside, we're going to be focusing on something that we call the life radius. So essentially what this is it's about, in Seaside, you might even think even smaller, not even a mile, maybe a couple mile radius where you live your life. These are the places where we live, work, pray, play. So our parks, our grocery stores, our restaurants, our schools, how can we start to introduce these simple, small shifts that cumulatively will have a significant impact in the population living there? So we work across people, places, and policy, finding ways to engage with these 3 spaces, and we'll take a minute to step through each of them a bit more. All right, so when we talk about impacting people, you'll see several of the characteristics that we had discussed as part of the Power 9. So it's all about getting people out there, moving, discovering purpose, eating better, and making new friends. Who doesn't want to do all those things? And we know that they point back towards us living longer, better, more wonderful lives, given all the research. So here we're looking at how is it to engage individuals in our community And we have a whole series of events actually that are coming up here shortly. We're holding a free workshop to the community in Seaside, actually, at the Oldemeyer Center on September 14th. And so I'd encourage you all, if you're interested, to join us at that. This is what we call our Purpose Workshop. And it's a 2-hour free workshop that really is amazing. It's a curriculum we can step through. And at the end of it, people come away, it's actually quite emotional. People come away feeling really empowered and inspired, energized really to go back into the world and live their purpose, which is pretty powerful. We also hold different community cleanup events, for instance, where we engage communities. So we've got a beach cleanup that's coming up on Del Monte Beach in early September. And in Marina, also in September, we're going to be launching something that we call a walking moai. You can see that photo up in the upper right-hand corner is a group of people that come together around a shared sense of purpose. So they decide to meet one day a week for 10 weeks in a row and just head out and walk together. So that's a way that we're getting natural movement, building deeper social connections. And, because of that accountability of a group, if you have if you're going to meet a friend to go to a gym or something or whatever it is, that friend is going to call you and say, hey, where are you? We're going for a walk, right? So you're more likely to show up, for these moais. And there's some amazing stories of folks that started walking together, 10 years ago, and they're continuing to do it today. And of course, their families are connected and their lives are connected in really meaningful ways. And that points to a longer lifestyle. So these are just some examples that we're hoping, with hopefully some of your help to bring to the city of Seaside. The next area that we work within are places. So you can see here, we work with schools. So we actually had a wonderful opportunity to meet with Superintendent Diffenbaugh just recently. And I see you here, Dr. Lesk. It's nice to have you on the call. So Superintendent Diffenbaugh is really excited for us to be bringing this work to Monterey Peninsula Unified School District. You'll see in kind of the cities that we've identified, MPUSD is absolutely the district that we'll be focusing our work on, and we're just thrilled. There's been a lot of early enthusiasm from the schools in the region, and we're looking forward to bringing this more. And so aspects that we work on in schools is school gardens, school lunches, figuring out daily activity for kids throughout the day. All sorts of, again, these little changes that cumulatively make a big impact. Work sites is another space that Paul is working diligently on. And we've had some early engagement in Seaside, specifically Monterey Signs. So Sean Adams, I don't know if y'all know him on Broadway. Their work site currently is underway to become a Blue Zones approved work site, which is fantastic. The Monterey County Weekly has also reached out. They're curious to learn more about this. And so what we do with work sites is finding ways to work with employers to build in well-being programs for their staff, all sorts of different things to encourage the employees to be healthier. It improves retention, performance, all of these different things. So there's definitely a value for work sites as well. Restaurants is another aspect here. So if y'all have any restaurants in Seaside that you think would be a good fit for this work, please let us know. This is one of our goals today, is really to meet you all and see where you might have ideas and folks in your great city that might resonate with this work. Also grocery stores, it's a little bit more difficult to work with some of the big chains. So if there are some locally grown and owned grocery stores in Seaside that you can think about that you might be able to connect us to, that would be terrific. Some concepts that we help support grocery stores in doing is something called a healthy checkout line, which I bet y'all can relate to. I've certainly been in the grocery store where I'm hungry and I'm waiting in line and I just need to grab that Snickers or whatever it is, because it's right in front of me. What we try to do is implement something called the Blue Zones checkout line. So when you're kind of in that space of impulse buying, you're reaching for a granola bar or an apple instead of that candy bar. and you're reaching for a water instead of that sugar sweetened beverage. So just small things that make the healthy choice the easy choice. Lastly, civic and faith-based orgs. So being with you all with the Rotary today, this is one wonderful example of us connecting with locals, folks on the ground. Sherry and I have a long history of working together with CPY, so really looking forward to building and deepening the connections there. There's so many great grassroots orgs in Seaside, the Village Project, Sun Street Centers, Palenque Arts, the Boys and Girls Club. So many different ways that we would love to find opportunities to work together. And lastly, the third P is policy. And this is a piece that I'm going to be holding, and I've had the great pleasure actually of having a meeting at Angelina's with Mayor Pro Tem Dave Pacheco, who's also on this call. Was so appreciative of his time to meet and chat. I also have a meeting, I believe next week, with the acting city manager, Roberta Greathouse, and Dan Mewis from the Parks and Rec department. So looking for ways to work together to make the city of Seaside more livable, bikeable, walkable, more accessible to public transit. Looking at the parks, where are some opportunities there that we can support. Looking at tobacco cessation and, perhaps updating some ordinances. And then of course, looking at food policy. So this goes back to the food access issue, which I know many of you were a big part of in terms of emergency food distribution during COVID. And, food access is a significant issue in our region. So those are some examples of aspects that we'll be working on in policy as well. All about finding the ways to live longer and better. So hopefully you're on the edge of your seat wondering, how can I get involved? One quick and easy thing that you all can do personally is taking this personal pledge. So again, it's all about these incremental steps that can roll up and support you in living a healthier lifestyle. So we've got this little QR code here that you can scan. It looked like Paul also maybe dropped the link in the chat. It's really simple. We're just looking here for you all to take it literally doesn't take longer than 5 minutes to look at, and just select a few items that you personally want to commit to. One example is putting your walking shoes in a visible place in your house. So you just have that extra reminder to go out and go for a walk. Maybe picking a smaller size plate at dinner, so you're a little bit more aware of your portion size. So encourage you all to take the pledge and share the pledge if you feel so inspired. And then, we've been talking about community events. So as part of the way that we're kind of celebrating this expansion into the Peninsula cities and broader Monterey County, is we're hosting a whole series of kickoff events, almost a month of them. And we're starting off with a great movie that we're having at the fairgrounds, Cute Little Fish. It's all about Finding Dory, the Disney film, and that will be on August 21st and 22nd. Just like everything that we do in the community, this is 100% free and available to whomever would like. So there's a showing, I believe, let me look at my notes. I think it's 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. on Saturday. And those two showings are in English. And there's a showing at 1 p.m. on Sunday, and that's fully in Spanish. So we would love for you to help us spread the word. We'd love to have as many folks there as possible. And then there's a whole series of events. Some of the ones I referenced earlier, walking Moai launches and the Purpose Workshop and beach cleanups. We're also looking for volunteers at those events. So if you all are inspired to do that, if you have any high schoolers in your life that are looking for community service hours, we would love to get some more folks out, hopefully having fun and helping us further our work here in the community. So the website there really outlines all of the different kickoff events. And then down at the bottom, you'll be able to see where you can sign up for some of the volunteer opportunities as well. So that's it. That's it. That's all. I think we have a little bit of time for some questions and answers here. And yeah, that's right. Here's Paul and my contact information. So we'd absolutely look forward to keeping in touch with you all.
Great job, Paul and Tanya. Hara Hachi Boo.
Hey, nice.
You're Jesse. You got the questions there. That was quite a great presentation.
Oh, that was absolutely. And I, on behalf of the club, Tanya and Paul, just want to say thank you and applaud the work that you two are doing with this organization, especially the message. After the past year, I think a majority of us have been under, many of us in different industries have been under, special types of stress. And I think the message that Blue Zones is encompassing, I think it's definitely needed for many individuals right now. So we definitely applaud all the great work that you're doing. Thank you.
Well, and Jesse, I see Pastor Ken Murray from Ocean View Baptist Church joined, and I know that one of the questions in there is directed at his and other churches in Seaside's interests. So there's a few there. You'll go ahead and read them.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, that question in particular, what about the role of the faith community in Seaside? What are some examples of how churches and places of worship can join or be a part of Blue Zones?
Pastor Murray, I love that you're asking that question, and we would love to talk to you more about that. The faith-based community is absolutely one of the key elements that we hope to engage with in our communities. There's such a strong community network that already exists there, and ways to bring some of these different, healthy lifestyle practices to those groups would be absolutely in alignment. So I would love to get your contact information and have a follow-up conversation about that. And certainly if there's more thoughts, I mean, purpose workshops is something that we can offer. Absolutely. Supporting churches in developing their own walking moais or potluck moais. That's another aspect that we can offer that helps people, explore plant-based and healthier food items in a fun kind of social environment. So yes, I would love to be in touch with you and talk more about that.
Excellent. We'd be more than happy to help facilitate that connection there. One of the other questions in the chat box window, I know Tanya and Paul, you touched on this a little bit. As you target businesses, is it mostly large businesses, or can small businesses like Jean's Import Auto Body join, or the corner market on Noche Buena?
That's a really, really good question. And the answer is we do not at all target specific businesses based on size or employee count. We work with anybody pretty much that wants to work with us. The only question is based on what kind of business they are. It might change the individual staff member that might be facilitating that relationship with them. If they're a work site where all the employees have insurance, then I might be working with them, especially if they're in the hospitality sector. If they're a corner market on Noche Buena, they might be working with my colleague, Carissa Lopez, who works with grocery stores. So if you know that Jean's Import Auto Body wants to become a Blue Zones Project Approved worksite, we would be thrilled to work with them. So short answer to your question is yes, everyone can get involved.
Wonderful. And I think the more that business, any size business learns about the work that you're doing and just how, a few simple steps as part of that pledge can make such a huge difference, I think you'll see a lot of interest there. One of the other questions that came up in the chat box window, I see that SVMH and Montage are sponsors. What is the connection? How are they involved?
I'm happy to take that. I think essentially what many hospital systems are starting to see is by the time patients get to them, people can be quite sick, and so programs like these really go downstream and see, how can we start to support populations in implementing healthier, more, just healthier practices that will prevent later on down the way people becoming ill and ending up in the hospitals. So it's a bit of an early stage investment for them. And Blue Zones Project, one of the pieces that we didn't really share is that this is a national project that is happening across, I think, something like 68 communities all across North America. So there's a great deal of evidence that points to the efficacy of the work that we do. These are all evidence-based practices that have shown measurably to improve community health and well-being over a period of time. And so it's in the hospital system's best interest. They're deeply, as well as Taylor Farms, right? SVMH Montage and Taylor Farms, they want to see this community thrive and do well. And so this is a tool to help support that.
Fantastic. And one of the next questions in the chat box window here, I know you talked a little bit about your partnership with MPUSD. What is the role or potential for schools to be involved? And if there's anything you'd like to add to that?
Tanya, I can take that one. So just like we work with businesses, work sites to become approved, we also work with school sites. So not only as a school site, focusing more on the classroom, on the students, but then a school as a work site. It's where employees go to work every single day. So we have kind of a dual stream approval process for schools, where we, on one side, tackle the issues and address student, and then the other side tackling faculty, staff, and making that school as a place of business more healthy and place of greater well-being for the individuals that go there to work every single day. So we're super excited to, as Tanya mentioned, to be involved with MPUSD. And in fact, just earlier, our two colleagues on the Peninsula Cities team were over at Monterey High, just having a blast educating the students about Blue Zones Project.
It's really wonderful that this sort of program can affect can help out the lives of not just students, but the teachers themselves, who, I mean, I think many of us know many teachers over the past several years have had to go through quite a bit. And so we definitely want to support their mental health as well.
Jesse, I'll just add really quickly about the school sites. If you happen to know specific site administrators, they would be the one to really reach out to our team. I think, we certainly have support from Superintendent Diffenbaugh, but he wisely, says that it is in the hands really of the individual school sites to express their interest and to engage and move forward with the approval process. So we would encourage, whether it's the principal or vice principal, whomever the site champion is to reach out to our team so we can start to move through the process with the individual sites.
Absolutely. And to second that as well, there was another comment, not so much a question, but a comment from one of my colleagues here. This should be a must in schools, even if it is just once a week class. This is important to have a happy and long life, and I couldn't agree more. The next item in the chat box window, actually, the recommendation, Turtle Bay Restaurant on Fremont and Seaside would be a great restaurant to enlist in this program.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a great recommendation. I love that spot. And I think we actually had a meeting there long ago when they had a little ghost kitchen, Seaside barbecue. So we had a great meeting there and hoping to further engage them. But thanks for that vote towards Turtle Bay.
Very cool. And then one of the next let's see, and then we did address the question regarding the faith community, and I see that Pastor Kenneth Murray included his contact information in the chat box window. Fantastic, Ken. Really appreciate that. And then Sherry Hasty had a comment here regarding building a community memorial garden at the office space. Sherry, feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to discuss that a bit more.
Well, I don't know if you all heard that Tanya was the founder or the executive director of MeEarth and has expertise. And during the pandemic, we have like a green strip at the end of the parking lot. And we lost a lot of people during the pandemic. So we've talked about making it a memorial garden where people could come. We want to make it very ethnically appropriate, kind of pull the cultures of our community together. And they can pull out a carrot as they're celebrating their deceased. And we've talked to our gardener, but I would love to get your input. And it's a dream right now, but if you don't dream, it doesn't happen. So I would love to have you come by and take a look and see what you think.
I would love to come for a visit, Sherry. It's always a delight and honor to spend time with you.
Likewise. Thank you, Tanya.
And I'll be sure to send an email connecting the two of you so you can get in contact with each other there. Perfect.
We know how, baby.
All righty. And then let's see, it looks like we have one more question in the chat box window. What about tobacco? What role does tobacco play in our community, and how will you target use?
Great question. Yeah, that's one of the big three policy areas that we focus in on. And certainly there's a lot of opportunity there in terms of policy work and working alongside the city to just check in and see where, do the ordinances need updating, kind of modernizing some of the language. It's a little bit procedural, but it's important, especially as we start to see the rise of vaping and these flavored tobacco products that are really having significant impacts on our young people, and really kind of planting the seeds for a lifelong of addiction to tobacco. So those are some examples. Tobacco retail licensing is another piece that we're looking at. Is the Lee law being upheld? So the Lee law is the amount of tobacco advertising that is legally allowed in storefront windows. So there's lots of different aspects. That's actually one of the pieces that I was just over in Seaside last week, meeting with the gals and the prevention team from Sun Street Centers. So I think there's some great opportunity to elevate and amplify some of the good work that they've already been doing, and just connecting some of the efforts across the county and the region. So there will be more to come in that space. I know, kind of depending on where the city is at, which will be one of the pieces that I'm speaking with some of the city leadership around, where they're at with policies, where some of the ordinances are in terms of smoking in multi-unit housing, different things like that. So just looking always for ways, compared to some of our colleagues in other places across the US, California is certainly leaps and bounds, but there's always room for improvement. So that's one of the areas that we'll be focusing on. But if any of you have thoughts about pieces that we can plug into, I'd be happy to hear that.
Tanya, my question about the tobacco, I mean, I'm not a smoker. I don't like cigarettes but I brought this up once before and somebody said, well, and it's like what was said on the first page that was put out, almost 70% of people in this country are obese or overweight or obese. I mean, then do we get into the area of, well, let's either limit or outlaw ice cream and candy and cookies and potato chips and things. I mean, where do we go? I mean, is it just in education? I mean, I think what you guys are doing is the right thing. Get them young and get them educated. But what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the work, kind of a cultural change, societal change work has to be multifaceted, right? It absolutely has to start with education. But one of the pieces that we really work on with the Blue Zones Project to ensure that some of this change is sustainable, right, and lasting kind of throughout generations, is looking at the kind of the environment where people live, work, and play, and how can we kind of start making some tweaks so the unhealthy choices are not as easily available. We're not saying we can't really say let's take them away completely, but in public spaces where people, they don't have a choice, if there's somebody smoking right next to them, we're trying to kind of limit those places. So if folks have a choice, they can make a healthy choice, or they can't make a healthy choice. So that's.
Well, I think the last Michelle Obama tried, and I applauded her for trying to get healthy foods in schools, and the kids threw this stuff in the garbage.
Yeah.
They wanted hot dogs and pizza. And chocolate milk.
Yeah.
And what do you I mean,
Well, you're speaking to somebody who did run a community-based garden and culinary education program for a lot of years. So that was a concept that I constantly was thinking quite a bit about. And truly, I would see, David, in the course of time and working with students and connecting them to their food in new and different ways and encouraging them to try new things in safe environments and really wrapping that educational piece around it, reaching out to families. Change can happen. So it's kind of a constant uphill battle, but the more of a multifaceted approach that we can take to this work will support, hopefully, the best outcomes for all, where people can have the opportunity for making the healthy choices part of their regular routines.
One thing that I certainly appreciate about those efforts, Tanya, is that, growing up, I saw many families in the communities where that unhealthy option is just standard. That's, there you have some kids who grow up in a household where they think, oh, a bag of chips for lunch is a healthy option. And what I love about the work that you're doing is that it helps to solve part of that systemic issue of showing kids that no, there is another option possible. It might not be something that they might appeal to them at that age, but at least something that they're aware of potentially as they get older and realize the effect it's having on their communities. Then it encourages them to make that change as well. So thank you for that work. We are at 12:53, so I think for the sake of respecting everyone's time here, I'm going to go ahead and close out the meeting with followed by happy dollars. But Paul, Tanya, I want to thank you so much for joining us here today, telling us about this wonderful work that you're doing. And I just want to say once again, we really applaud this. It's such an important issue that I think many of us might just as easily neglect or forget about. But the sort of the health, keeping the healthiness among the mind and the body. I think it's a great message for our community. So thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having us.
It was our pleasure. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the community. Come to the kickoff.
Absolutely.
Nice to see both of you. Good job.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording function now.